The Arizona Cardinals, news broke on Friday, and I don't do shows on Friday, especially after a really busy week. Listen, even I have to rest sometimes, given the fact that it's Good Friday, moving over onto Easter on Sunday. It just wasn't a good time for me to start rattling off things. So you know what? I saved it for Monday. And on Friday, they talk about the Arizona Cardinals potentially making 2 selections in the NFL draft. And it's hilarious because there's been talk of them trading back, and now it's trading back in, and what guy they might be interested in. And I just want to say this. For the 3 people in the chat this morning, Monday morning, usually a little slower, this is the kind of content you get from the Ben Garcia show. No one else was talking about this. Cardinals' potential of trading back in, trading back out. And I said, you know what? We're going to cover it all. And then lo and behold, there's a story that says the Cardinals might actually just trade back into this draft, make 2 selections. Yeah, of course they might. But these are the kind of things that you get here. We're taking every avenue, every scenario, every mock draft, and we're deciding what could work and what couldn't work. So kudos to you for being here on this Monday morning. So let's talk about it. There's this idea that the Arizona Cardinals could take 2 people in the NFL draft. There's a chance the Cardinals go in there and make 2 selections coming out of Thursday's NFL draft. And there's this idea of, should you do it? Is it too much? Do you need to be more conservative? Or should you just go right after it? The Arizona Cardinals, over the last couple of off seasons, have been very practical and have been very conservative, as they should have been. They were rebuilding this team. They were completely tearing it down to the studs and getting to the root of the problems, as they should have. They ridded themselves of bad contracts. They drafted the correct players they needed to do to continue to elevate the floor of this team. They made a couple of trades, but they largely have played it conservative. And the one question about Monti Ossenfort and his ability as the GM of the Arizona Cardinals is, do you know how to make a splash move? Can you be a little bit more aggressive? We don't need you to be reckless, but can you be aggressive? Can you come out of the night with a Will Johnson? Can you come out of the night with not just a Will Johnson, but a Will Johnson or a Jalen Walker or a Jahad Campbell or a Justin Simmons and address 2 problems? Because you are only a couple of positions away from completely retooling your defense. You can come out of this draft with a blue chip defensive player like Will Johnson and a supplemental guy, whether that being Jahad Campbell or Jalen Walker, to finish and fix the holes of this defense. Where do the Cardinals have holes at on defense? Probably need another cornerback. That's why we talked about Jalen Ramsey last week. Definitely need another edge rusher. And maybe more than any of those things, they need a middle linebacker. Bad. There's no Kaiser White. There's no anyone. There's no one right there ready to call the plays if needed. The Cardinals got to fill that hole. And it's something we've largely danced around over the last couple of weeks because I don't see a lot of value in the first round, or at least in the 16th overall pick, going and fixing your middle linebacker position. But now you're talking about if you could go get Will Johnson and a Jahad Campbell, or who knows, a Will Johnson and a Justin Simmons, or a Jalen Walker and a Justin Simmons, or a Jalen Walker and a Jahad Campbell. If with your first pick in the NFL draft, you get Will Johnson with your first pick in the NFL draft, if you could get Jalen Walker or Will Johnson and then come back around later in the first round and go get a Justin Simmons or a Jahad Campbell or a different linebacker to help supplement that position or an edge rusher to help supplement that defense, that's where you go. That's where the Arizona Cardinals have to go. And this idea of to trade up or to not trade up in the NFL draft, and then you really wonder about, well, if the Cardinals do trade up, they only have 4 picks to work with in the NFL draft or 5 picks to work with in the draft. What should they do? They don't have a lot of real estate to actually work with. What do? It's not an excuse. If on Thursday the Cardinals have a chance to trade back into this draft because it's seen as not a great draft and it doesn't cost you as much as you thought it might before, you should absolutely do it. Monti Ossenfort has been conservative and, to his credit, has built a pretty good football team. But the one question about Monti Ossenfort is, do you know how to make a big splash? Do you know how to make a big decision in the moment and just bring a big name in here? Monti Ossenfort has largely checked all the other boxes. Good drafter, largely good trader, free agency, got off to a rough start but figured it out. It's now time for Monti Ossenfort to be aggressive and a little bit reckless. If you can come out of this draft filling in the holes of your defense completely with a linebacker and a pass rusher, or you come out of this draft and you get one piece on defense and an offensive tackle for offense, and it costs you another pick in the future, not a big deal. Make it happen. Because here's the other thing. If Monti Ossenfort doesn't start getting aggressive, whether it's in the draft or in the trade market or later in the season, maybe the Cardinals have a good record, the trade deadline pops up, and he has an opportunity to go trade for a blue chip player and he doesn't do it, this could be the make or break year for Jonathan Gannon and Monti Ossenfort. If they fall on their face, you best believe we're talking about bringing in a new head coach and a new general manager. So don't worry about next year. Don't worry about, well, what are the Cardinals going to do next year in the draft? Focus on it this year. Go get the correct players for this team this year. Because next year, you might not have the chance to do so. So, as far as should they or should not they trade up in the NFL draft on Thursday, forget that. The argument should be, will Monti Ossenfort prove that he can be aggressive and strategically fill out the holes on this team? Because if you come out of this draft with a Will Johnson or a Jalen Walker at pick 16, and then later on in this draft, pick up an edge rusher and or a linebacker or an offensive tackle and fill in the rest of the holes on this team, you are talking about, if these players live up to their first round grades, one of the better rosters in the NFL. And that's the difference between a playoff team, a Super Bowl contending team, and a team that is irrelevant. The Cardinals were great last year for what we expected them to be in year 2. Second half of the season, not so great. But in its totality, fine. You need to be able to make the playoffs this year. And you need to stop worrying, if you're Monti Ossenfort, about being too reckless. Because here's why. As mentioned before, you might not get another chance after this year. You might, if the season blows up in your face, lose your job. So stop worrying about the picks you have next year or the year after that or giving up a player. Go be aggressive. What Monti Ossenfort has proved is he can build a pretty good football team, draft well, figure out free agency, even if it was a little slow at the start. But what he hasn't showed us is, I can be aggressive. I can push the chips in the middle of this table. I can be willing to fall on my face. Because what wins in the NFL is aggressiveness. And right now, Monti Ossenfort doesn't have the ability to show that he can be aggressive. But forget even 2 selections. If aggressiveness means trading up in this draft and only taking one player, but you end up with Will Johnson, or you end up with Jalen Walker, or you end up with Mason Graham, you should do it. Because this team is just a few players away from being Super Bowl contending. Forget about the playoffs. You need an offensive tackle, a linebacker, and most importantly, a pass rusher. And you probably would like a cornerback. If you fill in half of those positions on Thursday's NFL draft and they live up to their first round grades, there's a good chance you're getting a contract extension. There's a good chance you're making the playoffs. And there's a good chance you're talking about at the end of the year that this is one of the better rosters in the NFL. That's what you're doing. So this idea that the Cardinals could potentially just trade back or sit on their hands and do nothing, that's not what I'm in favor of. And for the people that are like, oh, well, don't you want extra swings at the bat later in the rounds? Sure. I'd rather have 2 first-round picks and 3 or 2 picks the rest of the draft in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th round than have a 1st, a 2nd, a 3rd, and then a 5th and a 6th. I'm just not interested in that. What I'm interested in is being aggressive over swings at the bat. Although I like swings at the bat, I would like them to be more aggressive. And a report came out that it turns out NIL is ruining the back ends of drafts. Apparently, according to a source, not my source, obviously. Can't find it at this moment. I'm not going to. But there was a story that came out that the back ends of these drafts are starting to get hurt in the 6th and the 7th rounds, where you sometimes could be able to find diamonds in the rough. Those players are going back to college and making more money in NIL, which we kind of all expected after a while. So what does that mean? The 1st and 2nd and 3rd rounds are even more valuable than ever. And in a draft that is seen as not a great prospect draft, this is the time to move up because it ain't going to cost you as much as it would have in previous years. And you're not looking to get a quarterback, and you're not looking to get one of those blue chip premium players that you need to be able to start your rebuild. You just want to supplement the positions that you have now. So if the Cardinals come out of the draft with 2 of the 4 following players, Justin Simmons, Will Johnson, Jalen Walker, Jahad Campbell, I will be over the moon and extremely excited about rookie minicamp and red and white scrimmage and the preseason, and I'll be all the way bought in. Give Jonathan Gannon what he needs to succeed. And if you're Monti Ossenfort, go be aggressive. No more sitting on your hands. This team needs it, and they deserve it. They've been through the rebuild. They've been through the steps. That's what needs to happen for this team.